Rent got too expensive, had to leave LA. So I got into my car and I went away to the big estate. Playing poker every day. Going all in with these fish like I'm at an all-you-can-eat buffet. We made it out of Arizona and head 5 hours east to El Paso, Texas. It's a vibrant city that shares a border with Juarez, Mexico. It's pretty surreal for me to be close enough to see into Mexico and the stark contrast between the two cities. I did some exploring before getting hungry and met up with Julio, the owner of House of Kings Card Club here in El Paso, Texas. He took me to this great local spot called Fortis. They had great ambiance with live music and some of the best Mexican food I've had to date. I finally head over to House of Kings, ready to take my shot at some of the best action in America, Texas poker. We hop into the 1-2 $500 cap no limit game. A good rule of thumb for Texas poker is it plays about double from the actual stakes, so this 1-2 game is playing more like a 2-4 or a 2-5 game. First hand of note, we look down at POKEJacks and I raise it up to $12. As this is our first hand, we're feeling out the opening sizes, but we get 2 callers and the action folds back around to the button. He doesn't want to play for $12, he 3-bets it to $30 and the action's back onto me. $30 looks like too small a 3-bet for me. If I just put in the $30 here, the other 2 opponents probably will as well, and we're going to go 4 ways to a flop with jacks. That's not really what I came to Texas to do, so I 4-bet to $100, and sure enough, both the other callers fold. Action's back on the button, and he's faced with a $100 bet in front of him. No friendly hospitality from him, he rips it all in for $500. That's a 5-bet, and even though we're in Texas and people have told me that people play a lot looser here, still a 5-bet is pretty scary, and we do have pocket jacks. We're losing to queens, kings, aces. Ace king is just a flip. The only hand we're really hoping to see is pocket tens, and I doubt that he's 5-bet jamming with pocket tens. For that reason, I fold my cards, and the button's nice enough to show us pocket aces, so good fold for us right out of the bat. Happy to avoid a cooler. We then look down at ace jack of diamonds from the small blind. The button straddle is on though, so I'm first to act and I raise it up to $17. That brings in the middle position player and the button, so we're going 3 ways to the flop. The flop comes pretty good for us. Jack, deuce, deuce with 2 clubs. We're first to act and we don't want to give off a free card, so I bet half the pot for $25. The action's on the middle position player who doesn't want to fold just yet. He tosses in $25 as well. The button gets out of the way, so we're down to 1 opponent and off to the turn, which is a bad card. It comes to 4 of clubs. I say it's a bad card because the front door flush draw gets there, but you shouldn't really be putting people on specific hands. You need to bet their entire range. And when he calls us on the flop, although he is going to have some flush draws, he's also going to have some jacks that we beat. For that reason, I decided to go for a bet here of $50. If we get raised or called and then something weird happens on the river, we can let our hand go. But that's not what ends up happening. The middle position player just flats our $50 and we're off to the 5 of spades on the river. Really shouldn't change too much unless the opponent had ace 3. With $203 in the pot, I don't think another bet here accomplishes too much. I decided to start with a check, looking to pick off some bluffs. If he bets really large, he's polarizing his hands in terms of bluffs and value. I think that probably just means a club flush. Lucky for us though, he checks behind and shows jack 10. No good sir, our ace jack is going to take down that pot. 1 for 1 so far in El Paso and loving the action so far. We then look down at queen 9 of hearts from the small blind. There's a few limps and the late position opens it up to $16. I put in the call looking to get into an interesting pot and see what happens on the flop. 2 other people have the same idea, so we're going 4 ways to the flop. Flop comes 8, 10, 3 with 2 spades. We have an overcard and a gutter to the straight. I start with a check. Big blind checks as well and the action's on middle position. He finds a check and the cutoff now bets $16. When the action's back on me, $16 is pretty small. No one else has really announced that they have a good hand, so I decided to take a risk and put in the $16, hoping to get to a cheap turn card here. The big blind gets out of the way and the middle position player puts in the call, so we're going 3 ways to the turn. The turn is no help for us. It comes to 5 of clubs. Nothing to do but to check. A donk bet here would look really weird. In middle position and the cutoff check behind, so lucky for us, we're off to a very, very cheap river, which comes to jack of hearts. Bang! We river the queen high straight, $116 in the pot, and we can't risk it getting checked through again. I need to go for a bet here and get some value. I decide on a sizing of $75. If an opponent has a 2 pair or a jack type of hand, they're definitely going to have to pay us off here because queen 9 is just not a hand they can really put us on. Lucky for us, middle position puts in the call, and the action's on the cutoff, who's thinking about it as well. We're hoping that he puts in the call or raises us. That would be even better. But lucky for us, he sticks in the call as well. I'm not sure what these opponents have at this point. I have the nuts, queen 9. I don't know what they have. I turn over my cards, and that's good. That's going to take down this $341 pot. Middle position does not show his cards, but the cutoff shows king jack of diamonds, so just like I thought, a jack paid us off. Strange that he called when the middle position called in front of him, but lucky for us, we're taking down that $341 pot. Shout out to the homie for coming out here in El Paso. We're going to play tomorrow. We didn't get on the same table, but it's all vibes. We got a $100 splash pot, and then we got a $50, pretty much like a racehorse. So after the hand, we'll just see who's better. House of Kings then decides to do a $100 splash pot for us, and Julio across the table doesn't want to play for just the $100. He tells me, let's do $50 on the side. Since we're going to see all 5 cards anyways, it's basically like a racehorse. I look down at king 4 of diamond, and the flop comes 10, 8, 7. Turn comes a 7 of hearts, and the river 10 of hearts. We're left with just king high, probably not good, and sure enough, Julio turns over king 7. He's going to take down that entire pot, including our $50 side bet. Nice hand, Julio. With $650 in our stack, we then look down at 10, 9 of diamonds, and I raise it up to $15. We get 2 callers from the middle position and the hijack, so we're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes ace, 8, 4 with 2 spades. Although this board does not connect too well with our exact hand, it's going to smash our pre-flop raising range. We're out of position here, but I still elect to go for a c-bet of $20 into the $48 pot. The middle position gets out of the way, but the hijack finds a call, so we're off to the 7 of clubs on the turn. When we get called on the flop, it's likely he has a spade draw or an ace, but probably not a strong ace because he didn't elect to raise us pre-flop. When we pick up equity here on the turn, we have an open-ended straight draw. I think it would be bad to just check it over to him. I decided to go for a chunky pot-sized bet here of $75, looking to put pressure on all the hijack's hands. Lucky for us, our bluff gets through, and 10 high is going to take down that $78 pot. We then look down at Pocket Kings, the Cowboys here in Texas, and raise it up to $15. We're in the middle position, and Julio in the small blind puts in the flat call, so we're going heads up to the flop. Flop's decent for us. It comes jack 4-7 with 2 diamonds, and Julio starts with a check. No sense in checking behind and giving off a free card. I c-bet for half the pot, $15, and pretty much a snap call comes from Julio, so we're off to the turn. Turn pairs the board, it comes a 7 of clubs, and Julio checks again. Time to size up now and charge all of his draws and jack type hands. I bet $55 into the $62 pot, and we're off to the river. The river now comes the 9 of hearts, so although it does bring in 10-8, I'm not really scared of too much when he checks it over to me for a 3rd time. The front door diamond draw missed, so I think a bet is appropriate here. I elect on a sizing of $75, and we get snapped off, which isn't exactly comfortable, but when we turn over our Pocket Kings, Julio mucks his hand, and we're going to take down that $312 pot. It's likely he had a hand like Queen Jack or Ace Jack because we double blocked King Jack. Nice to take down another pot. With $850 now in my stack, I look down at Ace Queen of Hearts, and I raise it up to $15 from the hijack. Julio again in the small blind puts in the call, so we're heads up and off to a flop. Flop comes ace high, ace 8-6 rainbow. Pretty great situation for us, and Julio checks it over to us. There's not too many draws on this board, and we have this board pretty much dominated, so occasionally I like to go for some balance and check behind. That's what I elect for in this situation, and we're off to the turn, which comes a jack of spades. When Julio checks it over to us for a 2nd time, it's time to start building the pot. We have ace queen, a premium hand here, and I elect for $20. Julio puts in the call, and we're off to the 10 of spades on the river, so the backdoor spade draw now comes in. Julio checks to us for a 3rd time here, and with $72 in the pot, no sense in checking behind, I go for a 2nd street of value and bet $30. Julio doesn't believe us. It looks like our flop check is going to get us paid off here. He tosses in $30. I don't delay, and I turn over ace queen, expecting to take down this pot a large portion of the time, but that's not the case when he shows ace jack of diamonds, It looks like our flop check got us into some trouble when the jack of spades peeled off on the turn. However, if I would have bet flop, it's likely he goes for a raise on the turn. So in this instance, it looks like I saved a little bit of money here. Just unfortunate for us that he turned to pair, but all in all, not losing too big of a pot, and we're on to the next hand. We then get blessed with pocket aces and I raise it up to $15. There's one fold and now the small blind decides he wants to play for more money. He 3-bets me to $65. When all the other opponents fold, the action's back onto me. I think a 4-bet is the strongest move, but I want to just bring in this opponent here, so I flat call him and we're off to a flop. With $133 in the pot, the flop comes king, king, 3 with 2 spades. Not a great board because hands that we had beat pre-flop like ace-king and king-queen now flop trips and have us beat. Lucky for us though, the small blind decides to check over to us. I think if he had a king in his hand, he'd go for a bet here with 2 spades on the board. For that reason, I think my hand's good and I decide on a bet of $65. Opponent doesn't think too long before putting in the call, so either he's slow paying a strong hand or we have him beat here and he just doesn't believe us. So at $263 in the pot, the turn comes the 6 of clubs. Sure enough, the opponent checks it over to us. I decide to go for some pot control and deception here when I check behind on the turn. The river pairs the 6, it comes the 6 of diamonds, and now when the small blind checks to us for a third time, my aces have to be good here. It's doubtful he'd do this with a king when I check behind on the turn. For that reason, I go for a $105 bet, looking to put queens and jacks in a tough situation here. Opponent thinks about it for a while before flicking in 1 chip. That's a call. I turn over my pocket rockets. The opponent does not show, but we're going to take down that $473 pot. It's likely he had pocket queens and just got confused by the way we played it. No complaints over here. We're scooping that large pot. With over $1,000 in our stack, we look down from the hijack position at king 10 of hearts and I raise it up to $15. 2 other opponents want to play this pot with us. They put in the call and we're off to the flop. Flop comes queen 10-5 with 2 clubs and Julio decides to check. Action's on me and I'm in between Julio and the cutoff. That usually means that I'm going to start with a check even though we have a pair, a gutter, an overcard, and a backdoor heart draw, and the cutoff checks behind. Turns favorable for us, it comes a 10 of spades giving us trips. When Julio checks to us for a second time, no sense in slow playing here with a lot of draws on the board. I bet $25. Cutoff doesn't want to play for any more money. He tosses in his cards, but Julio's a non-believer. He tosses in $25 and we see the 8 of spades on the river. He snap checks it over to us. We're not going to check behind. I decide on a sizing of $55, thinking that's a good size to get paid off with any queen. Sure enough, Julio tosses in 1 chip. I expect to be good here when I turn over king 10. That's trips with a king kicker. Julio doesn't show his cards, but they hit the muck. That means we win the pot, $206 coming our way. Texas is treating us nicely. We're live at the table on YouTube, and ever since a guy named Paul Walker came into my live chat, I've been crushing and running hot. Paul Walker. Run good as all Paul Walker. It's no different in this next hand when we have $11.75 in my stack and I look down at pocket aces again. A bunch of limpers to me and I'm in the big blind. I'm not going to let it go for just $2. I raise it up to $17. A lot of action here at El Paso and House of Cards. 3 callers, so going 4 ways to the flop. $70 in the pot. The flop comes ace 8-7. Bang, we flop a set. Pretty draw heavy board with 9-10 having an open-ended straight draw. Any diamonds have obviously the flush draw, so I go for a half pot size bet here of $35 into the 3 other opponents. Fortunately for us though, nobody has any piece of this board. I guess it makes sense because we do have pretty much all the aces locked up, but I expect some of the draws to call us. Unfortunately, nobody does, and we're just going to take down that $70 pot. Last hand of the night, we have over $1,200 in our stack, and I look down at ace queen of diamonds from the small blind. The hijack raises it up to $12 and the button puts in the call. Given the fact that we have a very good hand and I'm out of position, I elect on a large 3-bet sizing of $50. The initial raiser gets out of the way, but the button rips his whole stack in. Range versus range here, I think I have the best hand. I put in the additional $50 and we're off to a run out. I turn over my cards and he turns over his as well. King Jack of spades, so just need to fade any of those 2 cards and we should be good. 6, 7, 8 is the flop. The turn 3 of spades. The river queen of spades gives us that pair, but we didn't need it. Ace high was going to be good. We're going to take down that over $200 pot. Alright, you guys, just wrapped up the session here at House of Kings in El Paso. Got into the game for 500, rebought for 100, out for 1360, so a profit of 760. Here's how we're doing so far on the road trip after 3 sessions. As always, check out the action here. It's pretty gnarly. Probably gonna play 2-5 tomorrow. Drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, leave a comment down below. As always, good luck on the felt, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.